All right, share my screen. And if anything doesn't make sense or you have questions, please feel free to shout that out. So I figured I'd start with a quick overview, or maybe I should ask first. Does anybody want me to go through taking a PDF and converting it to Illustrator?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, oops, that's not what I want to do. So I took the AO or A0 size file from the Made for Mermaids pattern. So again, I use a PC, not an Apple. I know a lot of people have Macs, and my version of Illustrator is a little bit older. It's not the subscription version that you pay for every month and it's web-based. Mine is an older version that's real software. So my settings and my, what would you call it? The tools and tabs might be a little bit different. So first I would start with the PDF, and I right click, open with, and Illustrator. And then that pops up. So then I would do save as. Save as Adobe Illustrator. This pops up. And then it's saved as an Adobe Illustrator file. I have one that I just modified a little bit, and I took away some of the layers, or I'm sorry, some of the sizes, just to make it easier for the demo. But it basically looks the same. It takes the PDF and breaks apart all the layers into this big mess. At least it does for me. And then they go from there. So what I like to do is everything is in a clipping mask, which means if it's kind of like a cookie cutter. If you've got the rectangle on the screen, and if any of the pieces of the image go outside that box, the clipping mask just kind of makes it like a cookie cutter and only displays what's in that box. And sometimes pieces of the file are hidden. So I like to unmask all of the pieces. So I'll select the entire file, right click, and release the clipping mask. So here, there was nothing really outside the file, but there could be little mini clipping masks within the file. So it releases everything. And then let's see. Then a lot of times some weird, funky things show up, like this very first layer. It's a path with no stroke and no fill. And there's usually a ton of them, and it's really nothing. It's just, I don't know, it's a placeholder. I'm not really sure. So to get rid of all of those, to clean up the file, I'll go to select, same fill and stroke. And you can see here, it's going to select all throughout the file, all these blue dots, any layer that is basically invisible. So I'll delete those. Then, so I put in the agenda that for the I use a lot of patterns for pirates, and when you ungroup everything, they end up ungrouping it by pattern piece. So a front of the shirt, a back of the shirt. This one, for this designer that Made for Mermaids, it groups it by size. So all of the sleeve, the front, the back, all in size large, for example, is all grouped together. So if that's how you like to organize your file, by pattern pieces or by size, it's really up to your preference. I like to do it by pattern piece. So I usually go and I ungroup everything. Does everybody know what I mean by when it's grouped together versus ungrouped? If that's not clear, I can explain it.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Okay, so a group is where it takes multiple layers and it puts them together. So when you click on it, it selects the entire thing. So here, I'll zoom in here. So it has, so let's say the pink line size. If I click on this pink line, it's going to select all the pink line sizes on the entire file. And then that's one group. So if I click this and try to move it, it grouped it by all of the pink lines. So it's saying this group is every pattern piece size large, for example. And same thing if you go and you select this blue dashed line, that's a group. And if you move it, it's all clumped together, all of that size for every single pattern piece. And the reason that I don't like it like that is because a lot of the pieces that I do, I grade, and I don't use just a straight large or medium for the entire pattern. So I like to ungroup them all. So when I select one, it literally only picks size large on the front. And then I'll regroup. How I'll show you later is I'll regroup everything for just, let's say, the front of the shirt. And then I'll group each size so you can turn on and off, like on the PDF where you can turn on each size layer. I kind of reformat the pattern to be able to do that per pattern piece. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. So I'll zoom back out, and then here you can see in the top right, it shows the groups, the groups that it defaulted to. So I'll just select all those, and then I'll right click and hit ungroup, and you can see it just took those 4 groups and made them into all the individual files. Now some of them are still grouped, but it looks like it did what I wanted, where now if I click on this, the blue dotted line size, it only moves that instead of moving every blue dotted line size on the whole pattern. All right, so let's see, what's my next step here? All right, so then what I like to do is I will go and, because now you see on the layers, it's just a hot mess here. You have no idea what's the shirt front, the shirt back, the pocket, the sleeve, size small, you have no idea. So then I go back here with the regular selection tool, and I just highlight, click and drag and highlight, let's say the sleeve. And then I'll Control C or Command C on a Mac. No, that's not what I meant. Control G or Command G on a Mac. Oops, what did I just do? Now it's all going to begin. What did I do? All right, there we go. I regrouped it again by accident. So I'm going to click here, and because I want to group now all the sleeve pieces instead of all of these size large pieces, for example. So you can either right click and hit group, or if you like keyboard shortcuts, you can do Command or Control G to group it. And then just for organizing, I like to hide that layer once it's grouped. So then we'll do this. What's tricky about this is if you select anything that overlaps, it picks that. So here you can even like take this and drag it over, then group that. I'll get rid of that piece. And I got a pocket here. I'll select the pocket, group it. If I'm going too fast, please let me know. Group the back. And sometimes you have to find where it put your new group. There we go, right at the top. Get rid of that one. And sometimes you've got little things like the size chart that just kind of hangs out here. Sometimes I'll group that by itself. So I can just move that, move the size chart out of the way. Group the shirt front. And then up here, you've got just the information from the pattern company. I'll group that too. And usually hide that until if you have the projector and you want to measure your 1-inch mark. And then I'll rename this pattern info. All right, so that is basically what I do to reorganize the pattern once you convert it to an Illustrator file from Adobe. Does this make sense? Am I making it too complicated? Does anybody know easier ways?
How do you find where it is on the layers, like the group? Like you would highlight it and you'd
Yep.
go to, I mean, and then you'd click something. Is it labeled in the layer view?
You have to, that's coming up next. You have to actually go through and manually label everything.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a pain, but yep. So then what I like to do is then I don't relabel everything yet, because if you copy and paste and regroup things, I've gone through a pattern with like 12 pieces and labeled everything and then combined more layers. And then by the end, it like overwrote everything and I wasted time relabeling everything. So I've learned to kind of do that at the end. So we'll start with the pocket to do, let's see, unfolding mirroring. We'll do mirroring because that's easier, because yet we have to mirror. Even when we unfold a piece, we have to mirror it. So I'll start with that. So at least for projector sewing, for what I like to do is, like most pockets, for example, it'll say cut 4 pockets or cut 4 pieces, 2 mirror images. So I like to replicate that. And so they're all on the file. So when you're projecting, because if it was a paper pattern, you'd have to do it, flip it, cut it, and then repeat that. So here I like to simulate exactly what I'm going to cut. Excuse me. So I'm going to label, or to relabel it. When you click it here, it highlights it on your layer. So I'll double click that. I'll label that pocket. And then you would copy, either right click. You can either go up to here, edit copy, or control copy on a PC or command copy on a Mac, and then paste. Hit control V or command V, or you could go up here and paste. And then to flip it or to mirror it, you're going to go to object, transform, reflect. And then there's 2 options for the reflect, vertical or horizontal. So we're going to do vertical, and then it flips it. So again, for cutting purposes, I like to, really zoom in, get these as close as I can, so you're not to reduce the amount of fabric that we waste. The only weird thing here is then it flips the text as well. So it groups all the text. So if I'm being real picky, I'll go back and I'll flip the text again. Or you don't have to, because if you know it's the pocket, you could just delete it. It's really personal preference there. So then, excuse me, since you have your one set of pockets, I'll just copy the whole thing, paste a whole nother set, and then you've got your pocket pieces. And then if you want, now up in the layers, you've got 4 pockets, so you can regroup these again. If you'd like to, you can leave them as 4 separate layers. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can select them all and group them. And then you just have 1 layer. But now it just did what I said, where I went back and I labeled all of them pocket. And then when you regroup them, it doesn't carry over that label. So you'd have to go back and label it again. So that is mirroring. So I like to do that for if you've got a pant leg, let's say, that they only give you 1 and it says cut, the front of your pant leg mirror images. I'll do that as well. Skirts, anything that's not symmetrical that you need a mirror for, excuse me, I will do that step for. Then it's a very similar process if you want to unfold a piece. So I like when it's on the fold because it's less cutting, but I am super, super anal and particular. And if I'm doing stripes or if I'm doing a pattern that I'm afraid I'm not going to line up perfectly, I like to cut it open so I know that the stripes and the pattern is perfectly aligned. It's more work, but I think the result comes out nicer. Also for grain lines, I'm always worried when I fold the fabric that the grain line's not going to be straight on the underneath part. So I like to do it this way. One trick I like to do for unfolding is to align the side with the fold to a nice even number. So up here, what is this called? Reference point tool. I select the left-hand side because I'm pointing at my screen like you can see what I'm pointing at. The left-hand side. So this is at 1290.713 pixels. So I'll just make that around 2390, or I'm sorry, 1290, and you'll see why. So I'll align that to a nice even number. I'll do my copy. And then a neat trick is if you do Control B for paste instead of V, it pastes it in the exact same spot. You see, there's two of them, but when I pasted it, you didn't even see it because it pastes it exactly in the same spot. And that helps for aligning it. It makes it so much quicker. So I'll do Transform Reflect to mirror it. Now, since we're going to align the right, I'm pointing again, align the right side of the fold, I'll change my reference point to right. I'll make that the 1290. And now you have an unfolded piece. So you move that aside, and then you can repeat that for, hide that. You can repeat that for the sleeves. I also like to reorient everything the same way. So I'll just rotate that. Oh, where did all my things go? There we go. I don't know what happened there. All right, so you do the same thing to unfold the sleeve. Paste it in exactly the same spot. Reflect it. Excuse me. Now you've got an unfolded sleeve. So now the fun comes for regrouping your sizes and relabeling everything. So we can do the sleeve for the example. So first I like to group, or first I'll click both of these layers and ungroup everything. And now it's going to show you, it just took it from real nice, neat and clean 2 layers to a mess, but it's okay because we're going to clean it up and make it super organized. So again, if you want, you can actually, you don't need to do that. I usually delete the backwards text because you really don't need it. I like to make the text bigger also, since on the projector, it can be really tiny the way the pattern gets made. So especially like this, what it's called, sleeve, cut 2. I usually don't worry about the hem and seam allowances because I don't need that for cutting purposes. So what I do here to group the sizes. So now we have 2 different layers for that. Was that a gray size, a pink? I know Made for Mermaids doesn't call them small, medium, large. They do colors, but I'm going to call it that just for the sake of ease. So sometimes when there's a lot of layers, a lot of sizes, and they're very tiny little, maybe tight corners, it's tough to select it. And especially if there's notches in the pattern, I tend to miss selecting everything. So I found a really neat trick for that. So you'd select the first size that you'd like, you come up to select, same stroke color. Oh, hi, dog. And then, oops, and this comes. So here it actually selected every single gray dotted line on the whole pattern. That's actually not what I want. So I'm going to hide everything. I'm going to hide all the layers that I'm not currently using. So now we're only left with what we're working on. And that's going to make it easier. So if we go back again, select the dotted gray line, select same stroke color, There we go. Now it's going to select where it says your short sleeve line, your long sleeve line, all of the sides, and then you would regroup that. So right click group or Control G. And now I like to label it. So for the sake of the example, I'm going to call that a small. And then for organizing it, I like to just hide it. And I forgot to mention, I also like to make the grain lines bigger and usually thicker. Just sometimes I make them red. I like to make them taller because I sometimes am awful at getting the grain line straight. So I'll make that obnoxiously big. And then I'll group together all of the like pattern information so I can hide that. And again, this is just me because I'm sometimes way too particular about how I like things set up. So you don't have to go this crazy. So I'll group that. Oops.
I love how particular you are.
Thank you. Sometimes it's a detriment, but it's what I do.
But you're explaining why you do it, so I can understand why you'd make the grain line bigger and all that stuff. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Oh, sure. So that I group that. And then I just move that to the side and then I hide it because it's just easier to organize everything when it's hidden. And then we can unhide it when we're done. All right, so now we've got the pink line. So I'm going to select that. Again, select same stroke color. It selects all the, we'll call that a medium. Group that, call it a medium. Hide it, purple. Select same stroke, group it. This is why I took out most of the sizes for the demo, so we only have to do 4. And then when you're done with the last one, because when there's 10 sizes on a pattern, it takes a long time to do this. So sometimes I'll just do the sizes I know I need and then go back, group all the sizes I know I'm not going to need and hide them in case, you know, I make something for my sister or something that I'm going to want to have the other sizes for. Because depending on how many pieces in the pattern and how many sizes there are, this could take a very long time. So now I've got my sleeve. I've got all my sizes. So let's say you just want to have a medium. You can just turn off all the other layers that aren't the medium. You know, turn them back on. Now group that together. Now I'll label it sleeve. Then again, for the sake of cutting, I'll take the sleeve, I'll copy it, I'll paste it, and I'll make myself another sleeve. So they're side by side when it's time to cut. Then I'll hide that. And then, oh, I hit it. Then if you really want to go crazy, you can. There's actually, yeah, there's 2 different ways you could do this. You could have your 2 sleeves as 2 separate layers. Or what I could have done is instead of, I could have, let me get it. Because now if you want with the 2 sleeves, you got to go in twice to turn on your different sizes. So what you could do, excuse me, is, how would I have done that? A way so you can just, okay, so you would, let's say, take your medium sleeve on both sides, group them together. That's what I should have done. We'll ungroup this just for right now. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but if you want to be able to, so this is only, I can only do 40 minutes, but I created a backup event. So when in 10 minutes when we run out of time, actually, let me just say, I'm going to put the link in the chat to the new one because we're going to run out of time. So, all right, so there's the link to the new one when we have to close this out. Okay, so sleeve. So if you want, again, if you have 2 pant legs, 2 sleeves, 2 pockets, 2 whatever. Instead of having to turn on the left one and the right one, you could group them so you can turn them all on and off at the same time. So what you would do there is, instead, we'll go back to this where you would, let's go back farther. We'll do what's going on. All right, let's pretend like I didn't show you all that. You can do it that way. But this got rid of all my grade line and all that. That's okay. So if you want to, what is going on here? Sometimes this acts a little wonky on me. So let's do this. All right, so we have everything here. It is not grouped. So it was like we were starting from scratch. So if you want to have the 2 sizes for the left and right combined, you copy, paste. So now you have your 2 sleeves. Nothing is grouped yet. Now you go back in, select your first size, the gray dash line, select same stroke color. Now it's going to select that same size on both pieces. So now you can group, name that small. Now when you turn that on and off, it does it on both pieces. So a lot of times I end up doing it the way I did it at first, and then I'm like, ah, crap, like I really wanted it to be able to turn on and off for both sizes. So then I got to go back and undo it, and it's a pain in the neck. But so I tried to like type all this out when I was like going through this, when I did a practice run of this. I'm like, let me write down all these steps, and then maybe I'll get more efficient at doing it myself. So then same thing there. For that large. All right, so now if you just want the large, now you have both of your sleeves, large, both medium. Then if, do you guys, let me show you isolation mode. So here you have your 2 mediums, but let's say you're like, oh man, like I want to move them closer together so I can save fabric. You double click on your group. Here, I'll go back. So within this group, there's 4 separate layers, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you click it as a group, they're all connected. So if you double click on it, it almost like it then opens up the group without technically ungrouping everything. So now you can go in here, and if you want to group those 2 together as the left, and this is the right, then you can go over here and say, okay, let me drag that over, make that nice and close. Then when you double click again, it brings you out of that isolation mode, and now it's back to one piece, or one group, I should say. So that'd be the same thing with, with the top. We got 5 minutes before it kicks us out. So it'll be very similar, or really identical, to unfold it. You paste it, flip it, reflect, transform. Now this, I didn't note how I had this aligned, but a lot of times you zoom in real close, it'll show you a green line to show that it's aligned. So here you'll see at the top that a neon green line appeared at the top, which means my 2 pieces are aligned at the top there. So you can get this as close as you can, and it's aligned like that. And then real quick to just go over again what I did on the sleeve. I would select all of this, ungroup it. I would delete everything that's all the text that's reflected or anything that you just don't want because maybe it's just pain to you. Then I would go back and I would, if you want to make your green line bigger, you can do that. You want to just select all your text. And this isn't going to work exactly how I want it. And then you could always move it out of the way or hide it while you do your layers. So then again, you can click on, we'll do the pink layer, select same stroke color. I'm sorry, stroke color. And it picks every single piece on that's visible here and groups it. So then you can group that. Now you've got your size medium. And then you just repeat that for the rest of the pieces. All right, and that's everything I have for organizing the pattern once you turn it into an Illustrator file. So maybe this is where I can close it and reopen the new one to start up with the pattern adjustments. Or if you guys would rather do, because I also have adjustments, creating a digital layout, and then mockups, which mockups, that could probably be its own thing. So let me close out this one. And then if you guys want to rejoin the new one, we will get kicked off. All right.
Quick question.
Definitely.
So when you're projecting, are you using this Illustrator file and then going in and selecting each group? Like when you want to cut,
That's how I do it. Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
I can show you real quick. Here it is. This is for the romper that I posted recently. And I can show you this too. What I like to do is I have all the pieces and I do like this is a 3-yard mock-up. So I can see, I make it the width of the fabric. And I kind of put all my pieces like along the grain line and line them up exactly how I want to cut them. And then I project it that way. And then I'll turn off, the layers, like what I'm just doing the top. And then I don't need the waistband. Then after I'm done with the top, I'll turn on the layers because my cutting table is not this big. So I can't project and cut this all at one time. So I project what I need to, cut it, and then shift the fabric and then turn on the next layers. Or if I need to move something around, I'll do that also while I'm projecting.
And so the scale just knows where it would fit on that 3-yard markup based on the Illustrator file. Is that it's all per inches and everything?
Yes. Yeah. Let me switch over to the other Zoom and I can answer more questions about this. I don't want it to kick us off. All right, I will see. Did everybody see the link on the chat?
Hold on. Good.
All right, then I will see everybody in the new one.